when I go through the list like this and explain all the things that you have been through, I tell you your medical history. What is your reaction when you kind of can hear it in list form?
Yeah, it seems really surreal. Every time you have a health issue, or at least for myself, the battle back is significant. It's hard to battle back from one big thing after another. It's very easy to get discouraged. But for me, when I can find purpose and I can look beyond myself and see that, well, maybe what is happening to me isn't only impacting me, but I can use it and turn it for good to help someone else, then there's purpose in it.
Tell me a little bit about how all of this, not just in the last few years, but all of it has affected your relationship with your husband. How have you kind of worked through that together and supported each other and helped each other process, and him having to pick up a lot of the load, I'm sure, when you were unable to? Tell me how you've worked through that.
Well, I think one of the things that has really been an amazing thing for us is that not that it necessarily was the truth, but in his perspective is that I was the one that was always on top of everything, and he was the one that was kind of providing the fun and the comedic relief and things like that sometimes. I'm an oldest child of 10. He's the youngest child of 6. So he knew how to have fun, and I knew how to work. And we were a good combination. But over the years, he kind of expressed to me sometimes, you're so independent and capable, I don't really always feel like I have an opportunity to serve you. And we'd have some discussions about ways that he could feel like he was serving me. But as we move forward with these health challenges, I really did need him. And he really did serve me. Especially when I ended up having these wounds after surgery that had to be packed on a constant basis. He would leave, he would pack them in the morning, and they were ugly, awful wounds that we've got pictures of, but it would be so disgusting I wouldn't even send them out. But it was an overwhelming thing, and yet he would pack those, and then he would go to work, and then he would come home at lunchtime and change all of the dressings and repack them and go back to work. After my surgeries, I had to go to Spokane once a week. Every single week, he took off work and went with me up there, even though he didn't need to. He wanted to be there to support me as I went to all of those appointments for almost a year on a weekly basis. And I'm just so grateful. I remember once saying, well, when you were kneeling across the altar and we were saying our vows to be married, did you ever think that it would entail this? And he said, nope, but I do it all again. I'm just so happy to be able to serve you. And his Christ-like efforts to serve me and to serve our other family members and to be strong and bring everyone together has just really strengthened our marriage.
Okay, after having come so close to dying so many times now, are there moments that you look back on, big or small, that you feel particularly grateful that you were still there for?
Yeah, I just, in that time since the original diagnosis, for my brain tumors, I'm just so grateful that I've been able to be here to watch my children grow and to continue to work on and embrace the relationship with my husband. I know that there are plenty of people who have diagnoses like mine that don't get that opportunity. And so I'm just grateful for it every day. And in particular, just in the last 3 years, we've had our first 4 grandchildren. We had a couple of more children get married. And our relationships as a family have continued to strengthen, and those bonds just get stronger and stronger. And so I'm grateful that the Lord has allowed me to be here to experience it. And even though it still can be a scary world and there's a lot of things going on, and even right now, I feel like having faced those things, I can put my trust and faith in the Lord, and that I'm not afraid of what lies ahead. And I see that that's a hard thing for a lot of people, and I feel like that's also been a gift that's been given to me through all of this.
That's really neat. Tell me about parenting your children and preparing them for the potential loss of their mother. Tell me a little bit about doing that with young kids and teenagers. How did you kind of prepare your kids for possibility?
Yeah, it was different both times. With the first brain tumor diagnosis, our children were much younger, and so I felt like I had a little bit more control of what information they got. And my husband and I discussed it. We wanted to be honest with them, but also wanted them to feel hopeful. And so we had good discussions with them, depending on their age, that were age appropriate, as to what the outcomes could be and the importance of our knowledge and understanding that our family was forever, and that whatever happened, that they could turn to their Father in heaven and that He would have their back. That if I was meant to go beyond the veil, that He would support them and help them. And I let them know that as much as I could, I would reach back and be a part of their lives. I wrote them all letters that were on the computer, and I told my husband to give them to them in case I did pass away. And so I prepared myself in those ways. But we also just tried to find humor in it. And it kind of becomes a little macabre, but we would laugh, and we would start talking about people that I felt, or any of the kids felt, might be a potential future mate for my husband, and we would tease him about him and things like that. And it just, now looking back, it's like, well, that maybe is a little inappropriate, but it just kind of helped take the tension away. And so we would have times that we would just laugh and be funny, and other times that we would cry and be really serious. With my cancer diagnosis, the kids were all much older. They were also participating and taking me to a lot of my pre-op appointments and things like that, with a myriad of different kinds of doctors. And we had great visits back and forth along the way. But they also could do their own research. They were all able to really, so it wasn't that I was controlling the information that they got. They were able to be there and be a part of those appointments, which I think they really appreciated. But they also could really do the research and know that a stage 1 cancer has a pretty good long-term prognosis. They also knew that the complications I had afterwards were very serious.
So tell me, what is your relationship with cancer now? Or maybe even more specifically, that means, what is your relationship with death? That, does your heart drop every time you feel a twinge and worry that it might come back? Do you think about it? Do you allow yourself to think about it? Where is your headspace at for that now?
That's a really good question. And it's one over the years that I can find that if I allow myself to constantly be thinking about whether it will come back, whether my brain tumors are growing again, whether cancer has spread, all of those kinds of things, it can get me in a bad place very quickly. And so I just have really realized that I need to control my own thoughts. I can entertain those negative, dark thoughts if I want to, but I also know where those will take me. Or I can be realistic and acknowledge those thoughts and move forward on anything that is rightfully a concern in the moment, but it's not something that I'm going to allow myself to dwell on. I've been given this time, and I'm going to make the most of it. And if it comes back, well, then I will deal with it when it comes back. I will try to live my life as healthy as I can right now, doing those things that I need to do to be healthy and do my part, but also recognizing that not everything with my health is in my control, and that I have to make peace with that and know that we all die. It's, as my mother-in-law used to say, everyone's terminal. Yeah. And that's true. We're all going to die at some point. And so One thing I do remember as I really battled back from this cancer and all that, all those surgeries, I remember this thought thinking, am I happy that I've survived? Because the fact that I've survived means that I still have to die. And I let myself be really sad for a day thinking, this has been so hard to fight back and battle back from, that it would have been easier just to let myself die a couple of times, and then I wouldn't have to die and go through that whole process again. And so, but I took hold of that thought, and again, just remember that it's in the Lord's hands, and if when that time comes, He'll guide me through it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so neat. And I appreciate the realness with which you just shared that. So yeah, I mean, we all know the importance of taking control of our thoughts. That makes perfect sense. In practice over the years, have you found ways that you can change your thoughts, or that you can focus on other things? Have you found tools that are helpful in that for you?
Well, I think it's important to be realistic. When I've had bad news given to me, which has happened on multiple occasions, I allow myself a moment or a few hours of mourning and sadness, but then when that is over, I just don't allow myself to go into that area of self-pity. And I think focusing on other people and their challenges, and finding ways to serve and finding ways to find joy in the moment really helps me push aside those thoughts that are all about myself.
Yeah, it seems like service is a real through line for you in your life. That's really neat. Okay, this is a little bit of a departure from what we've been talking about, but I wanted to make sure we left time for this. And this is final official question. In preparation for this interview, you've sent me several emails, and I want to read your own words. This is something you sent me. Parents in our society today want to provide everything and create an environment in which the child always succeeds, and that is not what this life is about. So after everything that you have learned and experienced, where did that philosophy come from, and what is our job as parents?
Well, I don't presume to tell other people how they should parent, but for me and learning, and just as I feel like that I've been a good observer over the years, that's one thing that I'm good at, is observing and finding what should be a part of me and what shouldn't. And in my observation, I see that so often parents, and I understand that we want to have our children be happy, we want them to feel success. But sometimes that comes at a price when the parents make sure that that happens for the child. I see myself as a parent, what a better, good thing it is for my children to learn how to fail and to bounce back from the failure when I'm around, so that I can help them through that process, rather than orchestrating every situation so that they come out the winner and then they leave me at 18 or 19 years old and they have their first real disappointment in life and are absolutely thrown for a loop and don't know how to come back from that. That's an unrealistic expectation sometimes that we put with kids, is that if they're nice and they smile and they're happy, that things should always go as planned. But life doesn't go as planned, and we all make mistakes. And I want my children to make those mistakes when I'm around, so that I can help them learn the lessons that they learn from making those mistakes, and that they can work hard to overcome them and to do better the next time. And so I feel like that's part of teaching children resiliency, but also teaching them to forgive themselves, and saying, yeah, I made mistakes too. I still make mistakes, and that's okay. We all want to be the winner in the end, but our main purpose in being here on earth is preparing ourselves to return home. We all have a plan for ourselves, and that there's a plan for each one of us, and to come to know what that plan is and how we can work through and fall short pick ourselves up and start working toward that plan that is meant for us again, I think is the beautiful thing about parenting. It is to be that cheerleader, that person that helps pick them up and dust them off and gives them the encouragement to keep going and not give up.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This is a very personal nature, the things that we've talked about, but I appreciate how willing you've been to share and generous with your time and your thoughts and your details. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin.
Can I give you a speed round? Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, Merilee, what's your favorite sound?
My favorite sound of being outside with my family and hearing them visit with each other, and outside hearing the wind rush through the leaves of the trees. It's just, those two together is the best.
What's your least favorite sound?
Contention.
Yeah. What's your favorite word?
My favorite word is remember. I love to think of that so often. What slogan that we use with our kids is always remember three things. That's what we say when we hang up or when they would get out of the car when they go to school. And that was to remember that your heavenly parents love you. Remember that your earthly parents love you. And remember to love yourself enough to make the right choices, because you are of eternal worth. And I just think there's so many ways in which remember, whether it's remembering the Savior during the sacrament, remembering to take joy in the little things in the moment. I just love that word.
I love those three things. That's so neat. All right, Merilee, tell me what you know.
Well, as I mentioned, I know that there is a plan for each one of us, that we're not here by happenstance, and we're not in the circumstances that we're in by happenstance, but that we have each been given a plan that we're supposed to work in this life, and that gives us a sense of purpose and of belonging. And I know that we have heavenly parents who love us and who are cheering us on and encouraging us, teaching us along the way.
What do you want to learn?
Oh, I want to learn so many different things. I'm glad I have eternity to keep learning. My secret desire is to learn how to lead music to the point where I could lead the Tabernacle Choir or some other choir in the Messiah.
Wow, that would be fun. Enjoy that. That's fun. Merilee, what scares you?
Not very much scares me anymore. A mouse would scare me. Probably the thing that scares me the most, though, is that I just hope that my children will always walk in light and truth. And what makes me scared is if somebody chooses not to.
Okay. Tell me about a mom that inspires you.
There are so many moms that inspire me. I would say a quality in many moms that I see that inspires me the most are those moms who have hard things come into their lives and they don't give up. I think that has inspired me when I've had hard things come into my life, is I can think on some of those other mothers who, whether they're my ancestors or people I've read about or people I've known personally, they've inspired me to just not give up hope.
That's incredible. Last question, Merilee, what are you good at?
I would say that I have not necessarily a gift I was given coming down here, but it's one that I've worked hard at, and that is that I've learned to be a good minister and to look for the needs of others. I'm not super talented, and I can do a lot of different things fairly well, but I'm not super fantastic at any one thing. But I do feel like I have learned how to be a good encourager and minister to my family members and to those around me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Robin.